N-Corp might be unable to threaten Limbus Company anymore, at least for the rest of the mission, but there is still one more threat to deal with. Gregor was annoyed by a specific aspect of the contempt or EGO gear that Jiahuan used, where it shielded both him and Gubo in a barrier that would not be overcome quickly, where no harm would come to those inside, but in turn, they're unable to harm anyone. Seeing this as an annoying trick. As they're unable to finish them off, eliminating two of N-Corp's strongest combatants there and then. Even Heathcliff saw that everything was just bouncing off that sword. Yeah, he can't smash his skull in! Faust noted that N-Corp has found a way to successfully extract EGO. Likely from abnormalities in the District 14 branch facility that likely held Spiral Contempt and Derfushus, along with a certain aberration of the Fairy Festival, based on the EGO gear that they all wielded, and yet Jiahuan seemed unaffected by it. Faust noticed that it's at a more advanced stage than they imagined. They physically couldn't have had enough time to reach that level of completion. Jiahuan told Gubo that he's not the most pleasant to be around, but he's certainly capable. Gubo arrogantly saw that Jiahuan failed to see through the vast mind of a scientist. It happened as his research deemed it would. The defensive field generated by the EGO gear is invincible. Well, it's at least durable enough to withstand a barrage of the damned dozen and not break. Meanwhile, Skinless saw that the lineage of hierarchs must continue. The bequeathment of immortality must continue. The amusements of life must continue. The cyborg elder saw that this momentary lapse in judgment must not be allowed to shake Dagyuan Yuan's status quo. The blood fiend elder told Honglu that he need only remain a gem, nothing more. His only responsibility was to keep that jade clean, free of marring, to bring farther glory to Dagyuan Yuan. Half-Plant demanded that Jiamu correct Honglu's wandering, to return him to the right road. As in, make him follow your direction. Yes, follow your directions. The Jarred Elder asked, why does a gem, the child who must witness nothing but the greatest luxuries at the apex of the world, want to be a worthless stone again? Well, it's because the price of being at that gem is too high. It's why he said to Zuripan, if it was something that could be given away to him, he'd do that. Skinless made it clear that Honglu was only ever a means to an end, as he told Jiamu to ensure that he, the beneficiary of their love and care, may fulfill his duty and purpose for existence. So he exists to witness untold horrors for your sick amusement? As the T-800 in the Terminator would put it, you all. Jiamu saw this as a tragic turn of events. She meant to bestow him the golden bar, forsaking one of the paths to immortality that she had acquired. Yet she saw that he'd rather pursue the pointless, fleeting charade against his own grandmother. Then Honglu demonstrated Stockholm syndrome, where he paints them in brighter colours than they deserve. He confirmed that he would stand against them, those who have loved and cared for him more than anyone else in Dag Yuan has. Well, that's one way of putting long-term abuse. That's why, while his brothers and sisters were doomed to spend the rest of their lives killing each other, he could simply witness the lives of others plummet to the cold earth, all from the comfort of his room. His parents also told him that he should be thankful for being born as a gem, that he should feel lucky, that all he had to do was just keep an eye open. He asked her, what if he told her that he's exhausted, tired of glimmering on? Jamu didn't get this, seeing a precious jade as something that should not have any desires or wants. Then Dante saw that Jamu was wielding the golden bar. She stabbed herself with it, and it began to flicker, its power spiraling into her body. She saw Dante's rewinding process that they demonstrated in the first round as fascinating. It unlocked a new level of understanding in her, the true worth of that artifact, previously unnoticed and allowed to remain untouched within the depths of their treasury. Once they leave this ruckus behind, she'll be sure to put that golden bar within their head to good use as well. Yeah, you're gonna have to kill the others before you can do that, as they won't let you do that. She starts off this boss battle by consuming a bolus, telling them that they should be honoured by this, as they're the first to witness the power of that bolus. Phase 1 reveals this to be a chimeric bolus, which combines the properties of sheep, snake, tiger, rooster, and pig Haishu. Wei is the sheep, and that inflicts rupture, but gains clash power if 5 or more bleed and rupture is there. And if there's 7 or more, poise is gained. With yin or tiger, bleed is what is inflicted. It also grants poise and inflicts defense level down on what is hit. Si or snake inflicts poison. Rooster or yu inflicts rupture and inflicts 1 bleed and defense level down for each critical hit. There's also a block that utilizes this, which heals 8 SP and gains poise. Hun or pig inflicts bleed, poison, and rupture if the unbreakable coin doesn't crack on multiple targets. Coin power increases to a maximum of 2 for each negative effect on the main target, but deals half damage if the clash is lost. At the start, she has Malatunement, which grants her 2 base offense and defense level. She gains 2 attack and defense power up next turn, and heals 15 SP if Honglu has Hollow Obedience. This battle is where it's over if Honglu dies, and she prioritizes her targets as Honglu. As for how Hollow Obedience is gained by Honglu, this is after a clash win on hit once her attack. Rather, once per attack. And this status weakens his clash power, which disappears if he is at minus 45 SP. If he has free heaping obedience and it's converted to hollow obedience. Yes, the heaping obedience is gained after a clash win, and hollow obedience gains her 1 offense level up and 1 defense level down each time she uses a different attack, 3 times a turn. She is weak to slash, lust, gluttony, and envy, but strong against sloth and gloom. And when she's at 50% HP, that's when we find out that it's not that easy. Not for Shi Miyin, as she was previously known as. Honglu had witnessed so many lights, so many colors, and so many emotions. Everything that he had to witness drew his gaze away from the rest of the world. He saw his world as nothing but a meaningless mess of confusing, patternless, and incongruent colors. Ooh, his ring identity would probably be an interesting one. Sometimes he'd wonder, what kind of world reflects in the eyes of others? What kind of world do they live in? That they become so attached to these splotches in the myriad of colours. Then Jamu reinforced the belief that she's a functional psychopath, one who only cares about immortality and H-Corp's profit margin, and not for those that lived there, asking Honglu why concern himself with the way that mayflies live. She believed that their concern is only for what lies immediately before them, seeing them as unable to see far enough to achieve anything of significance. Says the one that wants to attain immortality and witness disturbing imagery for your amusement at the expense of whoever is forced to witness this. She asked him if he believed that Hongguan could have risen to its present reputation and prosperity had it not been for the revered Xianren. That prosperity is mostly for the nest. The back streets don't count to those within the nest. She believed that the other nests would have destroyed and devoured them whole. Yes, the age-old cry of the autocrats. The belief that everything would fall apart without their guidance. That's true, just not for the reasons that they believe. It's because they made everything revolve around them, and when they die, unless there's a strong enough successor, the order that they made would die with them. Sinclair wanted to reach out to Honglu. He knew that not everything in his world was colourful, but he must feel something. Something that made him feel that life had meaning. Honglu asked if he really thought so. He believed that it slipped away from him so long ago. Daguan Yuan was also so vast, much too vast to find anything that was lost. Dante didn't see this as true. They were sure that he'd find it again, if he was determined enough to do so. Then the gaslighting psychopath told Honglu to not let those empty words stir him. What could a frivolous thing like his puerile heart possibly do before the great will of Hongyuan? No, that's your will that you're speaking of. Then she heard the revered Xianren of her heart. She believed that whatever the revered Xianren of her heart said to also be true, where she believed that they understand, acknowledging and appreciating her life, all that time she sacrificed for Hongguan. Jiamu, the only thing that you've ever sacrificed is your dignity. A sacrifice is giving up the valued, not the worthless. She then laughed manically as the revered Xianren of her heart spoke. It's clear that Carmen is at it again, as Jiamu distorted into something unrecognizable, believing that she's following the great will of Daguan Yuan, and was being reborn. Believing that she's reborn as a mighty, noble, and immortal being, with the Ananda worm in a palanquin on her back. This was the muddled Haishu of the corpse palanquin. And phase 1 of this battle began. She gains 4 base offense and defense level up from the start. She'll also gain attack power, defense power, and haste when recovering from panic, as in minus 45 SP. She takes 10% more damage if she has 10 or more rupture, and 10% more will be added if she has 5 or more negative effects. The body is weak to lust, gluttony, pride, and envy, but is weak to sloth and gloom, while the palanquin part is weak to physical, lust, gluttony, and envy, but strong against sloth and gloom. Her yin si yo is what the attacks will be here. A mix of bleed and rupture, where the more of it there is on the target, the more coin power she'll have. One multi-target attack will convert all coins to unbreakable ones. If Bayu, the precious jade, is on Honglu, this one prioritizes him. Another multi-target attack adds damage based on the bleed and rupture on the target. Her block heals her SP, and there's also an attack that grants her poise if she wins, and defense level up, and defense level down if she loses, which upon hitting inflicts bind, fragile, bleed, and rupture. When her core HP is at 85% or less, we have a vision of Lin Daiyu at a time before the Kong family was wiped out, saying that tomorrow they'll play whatever Jia Baiyu's favourite game is, asking how that plan is. And she asked what did he want, giving him something to work on when they meet the next day. He'd better come up with something that he liked. This made writing appear behind her in that memory, which was colourful compared to the rest of the monochrome image. It said happiness. Honglu understood that it can't have been much fun to be around him, but Lin Daiyu always invited him to play with her, always the first to sense how he was feeling, always the one to be there for him, always the one to be sad for him, to be angry in his place. It almost deluded him into believing that he was no longer just a gem stuffed in a treasury. The happiness status grants Honglu one more clash power. He also doesn't die when taking fatal damage, healing 50% maximum HP. It also nullifies the precious jade attack once. He then recovers from it, and Jiamu loses 10 SP, and she has Fragile inflicted on herself. He also gains one random Egeo resource each from 3 of the Egeo affinities with the least amount of resources. At this point, it will target Honglu, which causes 0 damage. But it will stagger and turn him into a precious jade's cradle. This needs to be broken quickly, and it's largely the same except one multi-target attack will do 50% less damage if it loses. And after getting Jiamu to 60% HP or less, we see a memory of the original Jia Huan, wanting to play the bolus making game, gathering a bunch of sand, pebbles, leaves, and seed to make a bolus, and the best bolus wins. Then colourful writing appears, making the rest of the memory monochrome. It said, joy. Honglu remembered that Jia Huan always liked to follow him around, wanting Jiamu to recognize him. Jia Huan always had this dream. He wanted to be one of the top bolus makers in the city. Then we saw Jia Huan injured on the day of the Kong family's destruction. He regretted not listening to Jia Baiyu. He was so envious. He just wanted to know what they were going to show there. Honglu considered that if he had listened to him, he could have achieved his dream. The happiness status is replaced by happiness joy, which grants Honglu one more final power. He can also heal an ally with the least SP by 5 on a clash win, although surviving the fatal wound once and the Egeo resource gaining that remains the same. This one has a multi-target attack that grants attack power up, defense power up, and damage up to that pass next turn, and it heals 30 SP, but if it loses, it does half damage and it cracks. 10 sinking will also not be inflicted if it loses. There's also a single target variation of this attack, and when Jamu is at 40% HP or less, we see a memory of the past where Jamu told him that it's time for him to visit the Elders. Colourful writing appears behind her as everything else becomes monochrome. It says, "Sorrow." Honglu believed that the Elders were always so kind to him. This kindness was deceptive. It was for their own self-serving purpose. He wanted to play with Lin Dayu instead. He eventually stopped being afraid of them, likely due to being desensitized. He saw the Elders as always speaking as though they know every little thing about him. This was because they were watching you, Honglu, through your jade eye all of your life. He saw that his only use was as a window, an amusement for the Elders in their long, tedious lives. He didn't need to talk much. He only needed to see as many interesting things as possible, and wear a pleasant smile for them. The organic robot Ziren said that it can't be helped. The prudent option would be to witness it all in silence. He wished that Ziren could be back to her old self again, but he knew that this can't happen. So he smiled. The happiness-joy status will become happiness-joy-sorrow status, which grants Honglu 3 more final power, and if an ally is killed, the survivors gain 1 attack power-up once per turn. As for the rest, that remains the same. She will then summon 5 Elder Trees with her multi-attack. Well, multi-target attack rather in this phase, although it's 50% less damage if it loses. Along with an attack that gains coin power if the target is at 50% or less. This attack inflicts rupture, and if they lack imperfect immortality, she'll heal an ally with the least amount of HP by 15%. Then her indiscriminate multi-target attack will grant more coin power, and deals more damage with every 1 ally with sublime immortality. If none are there, 200 shield is granted to all targets. Elder Trees inflict rupture. They can heal themselves and buff Jamu with attack power and damage up. It's weak to physical, sloth and gluttony, but strong against gloom. And when Jamu is at 15% HP or less, we see a memory of a younger Jia Sichun wanting Jia Baoyu to play with her. That room is too big for just her. Then we skip forward to the day that he told her that he could try, that he was okay if she tried to kill him like the others, which was the most hurtful thing that he ever said to her. She told him that he never should have said that. She won't be visiting him ever again. Then writing appeared behind her. As everything else was monochrome, it said, "Rough." He remembered that she was once a child who found happiness in the smallest things, who used to like playing with her. Yes, he used to like playing with her, but once she got older, she'd be like any other child in Dagyuan 1. She'd resent him, envy him, and try to kill anyone else who's shooting for the seat of family hierarch. But he hopes that she wouldn't come to hate him. So once again, he smiled. Then, at some point before he left Dagyuan Yuan, Zui Pan told him that he didn't have to die that previous day if he just helped him, asking if he had any idea how much it hurt when they chopped his neck off. It hurt so much he couldn't even scream. He wished for nothing but the worst sufferings in what's left of his miserable life. Well, he got what he wanted, although not quite as he would have wanted. Honglu understood that Zui Pan never wanted to fight. He was a pacifist with a soft heart that could easily be brought to tears, but after a few deaths, his every word became a stabbing thorn, and he gladly impaled him with them as he cursed him. He ended up hoping that everything that he cursed him with came true, so he smiled again. Then Zui Baochai told him that her grandmother and mother told her that there are no other women in Dagyuan Yuan who could possibly hope to match up to him other than her. She hoped that they could live in the happiest life that they can together, seeing only the pleasant sights, eating only the best food out there, and enjoying the best luxuries life had to offer, asking if he was excited. He saw that she loved him, but what she loved was not the person, only the light that he radiated, just as he loved her fragrance. Letting the will of Dagyuan Yuan carry him away would have had him get married to her. But that feeling that she spoke of as excitement, he saw as nothing more than a heavy, cumbersome accessory. He saw it as unwieldy, and it was more than he deserved. So he smiled. Then we see a memory of him talking with Lin Dayu, who had a problem with him isolating himself in that room. She didn't know what to do anymore. Whenever she saw him smile, she finds herself drawn to it. Before she becomes so hateful of it that she never wants to see it again. Honglu believed that Lin Dayu would hate him for the rest of her life, just as everyone else in Dagyuan Yuan did. So it was better that he shut himself off in his room. She could have left him then, but she chose to remain by his side. He questioned if it was choice at all. She might have been bound to him. It was his fault that she had nowhere to go. So the only thing that he could show her in response was... He didn't say it then, but it was most likely a smile. The happiness, joy, sorrow status will become the happiness, joy, sorrow, wrath status, which grants Honglu 5 more final power. Everything else will remain the same, although it also adds an increase to damage by 30% of the total HP percentage that he's cumulatively lost, up to 100%. Now, this is significant considering that there are Ichio that can heal. And also, he has the K-Corp identity, which, if he blocks, he can gain a regenerative capability, although he shouldn't do this too much, as too much can kill him. And this is where Jamu gives up on subtlety, as she uses a multi-target attack that gains coin power if she has 30% or less core HP and deals 30% more damage. It becomes unbreakable at 50% core HP, but if she loses, it does half damage. Upon her defeat, she tells him that his only duty is to witness, that is all that he is, that is all he will ever be capable of. She knows this better than anyone else. What a joke, telling him what he's going to think, as if naming his opinion in advance will make him unable to alter it. Yisang told Honglu that his smile hasn't changed since that day, but they've come to know that his smile is more than a shell. It's the same smile that brought him to the past, the same smile that he thought resembled Yongji, who according to Rim is still alive. So he knows his distant and true hearts, asking if he felt something from them. Honglu then remembered Gregor fighting the false apple abnormality, remembering solitude, steadfast, lingering. So bitter, yet so intolerably exhausted. With Rodya, it was her and the others running away from Baba Yaga, remembering loneliness, regret, anticipation. The castle of ice was so lonely and cold, despite her smile. With Sinclair, it was him standing against the distorted Chroma, the one who ruined his life. Remembering conflict, anguish, courage. But there was a desperate resolve to overcome it all. With Yi-Sang, it was him finishing off Dong Rang with his EGO, remembering longing, melancholy, warmth. The wings unfurled were so blinding, so brilliant. With Ishmael, it was her about to extract the golden bar from the heart of the pallid whale with her EGO, remembering passion, adventure, ferocity. The journey, finally in search of a destination, found liberation. With Heathcliff, it was him wielding his EGO against Earl King Heathcliff. Yeah, he was there to kick his own remembering futility, determination, love. The declaration was beautiful, although to whom he didn't know, indicating that he remembered that Heathcliff had a love, just not who, indicating that while her existence wasn't erased in that universe, her memory was. With Don Quixote, it was her in a duel against First Kindred Don Quixote, remembering exhilaration, tragedy, excitement. He learned how beautiful and incandescent the light of a continuing dream could be. But he also knew that they're just fleeting things, destined to be lost in time. As all things return to dust, so will these emotions, no matter how hotly they once burned. He's not like the rest of them. He doesn't want to change anything. He doesn't want to achieve anything either. So he just watched, with a perpetual smile. Dante told him that he didn't have to want to achieve anything, but as long as they're on the bus with the rest of them, things will keep happening, both good and bad. Something is probably going to blow Heathcliff's fuse again. He'll see the others get killed again. They'll fail again. The kind that leaves them with nothing. Yes, the failure being the kind of thing that would leave them nothing, rather, and leave them stagnant. But among those inevitabilities, they told him to think of the other things that are sure to happen. He's going to miss the days he went kiting, when Don Quixote was going to give another tale of adventure he'd indulge her. He'd be listening to Rodya heap praises about her favourite food, whenever they get a chance to try them. He's going to suddenly realise that the scenery past the bus windows had changed, and that they've become beautiful for once. He's going to feel his heart swell for no reason, when he listens to the others laugh and giggle behind him. How does Dante know this? Because Dante was talking about themselves. Those moments in time are what they used to fill the void that their memories left behind. Honglu asks how could they and everyone bring themselves to care about anything, knowing that it will always have an end. Dante told him that one end, or at least what appears to be an end, was always the start of something new. Each finish line was just another arbitrary mark, another step in the journey. Those little steps that kept them going. Dante didn't think that he was stagnating, like Jammu and the Xianren. He was changing too, asking why did he decide to go along with Jacu's plan. Honglu told them that it wasn't about the war that's going on outside, the Golden Bar or Dagyuan Yuan. The first thing that came to mind was that he wanted to see Jiao Sichun genuinely smile again. Dante pointed out that it's how his heart has been changing, in ways that he hasn't seen. He thought that he'd already let those fragments of his heart float away from him, seeing all of existence as but a passing dream, destined to return to emptiness. On the day that Zhao Baiyu was to leave Dagyuan Yuan, Faust told him that before he boarded the bus, he may present a name or alias of his choosing that others should address him by. She asked if he'll use his name. He thought about it and decided against it. He decided to call himself Honglu. He realized that the fragments of his heart had been buried there all along. They weren't lost. He'd only forgotten about them. It's why he felt that his heart was trapped. Dante told him that they can keep turning the clock for him. They can keep walking side by side with him to the end, but in the end, only he can save himself. Honglu thought that the kite that he played with floated away, never to be found, but he noticed that it was still there. He saw every meeting as a promise of a goodbye, and the loveliness of fresh blossoms only sharpened the pain of wilting. But Dante added that the world he witnessed will always be beautiful because he's a kind person, kinder than anyone else, so his world must be painted in the fairest colour of jade. Honglu then said that if those petals refuse to surrender and live on in the brief moments they're given, despite knowing that they will all eventually scatter to the winds, Dante told him to show them the petals that he gathered. Then Honglu unleashed his own Ichio, which he used to open a portal. He then stood on top of some floodgates with Jiamu below him. He then felt happiness, joy, sorrow, and wrath. He readied his Guandao, and with all those feelings flowing through him, he sliced the floodgates open, washing away Jiamu and all the moral decay that she stood for. The temple was flooding, and Jiamu was separated from the golden bar, defeated, and with no strength left to fight. Honglu told Jiamu and the elders had always caged themselves by their desperate search for immortality, searching for ways to perpetuate their existence, searching night and day for new ways to be freed from death. But had she ever freed herself from that suffering, even for a moment? She dismissed this as moments of insignificance, foolish human afflictions, a waste of intellects. Honglu saw every emotion as such a fleeting thing, mere sparks and moments that will be lost in time. It might be foolish to be so attached to them, but he saw that an eternity of existence without them is an eternity of emptiness. Another way of putting it is what Arthur Schopenhauer said: life without pain has no meaning, as in of any kind. He believed that to exist is to live in the accumulation of moments, happiness, pain. They all scatter away as fast as they arrive, but he'd rather be honest to those feelings. He'll do more than just witness them. He wants to reach out and let the swelling emotions that he has run wild, in happiness, in wrath, in sorrow, and in joy. That is how he'll find an eternity in a glimpse. Jiamu complained that there was so much left for them to accomplish. Without them, Dagyuan Yuan will, Hongyuan will, implying that both would fall to ruin without them. Honglu believed that District 8 would be fine without them, because it will be the people that will bring change to Hongyuan, not the family hierarch. Jiamu saw this as insolence, seeing him as a stupid, thankless child. He'll do no such thing. Oh really? How are you going to stop him? Oh wait, you just tried to stop him and failed. I mean, not even distorting gave you the advantage to overcome the threat that he posed to your rotten system. Honglu saw it as his opinion. And so with that, he'll leave them to enjoy the immortality that they desired. Her and the elders. They'll have all the time in the world to watch as he lives his tomorrows. May the rest of their lives be long and unending. He said this as the doors of the temple were shut. And that's a polite way of saying, may your deaths be slow and arduous. Heads! This was for all the that you made me witness. I see that as all the bad karma that they accumulated catching up with them at once. Something that's long overdue. Well, if it wasn't intentional payback, it was certainly a byproduct of that action. Well, the golden bar is retrieved, but what about the aftermath? Until next time. Hail the rabbit!